Welcome back, everybody. This is Rodrigo Fonador with another episode of Asheville Real Estate News. As always, this episode and all of our episodes here are brought to you all by American IRA LLC, your local IRA custodian here in Asheville. Today, we are going to be able to talk about tourism and how it impacts the wonderful city that we call home. And we have a really good opportunity to learn from somebody and hear from somebody who is kind of at the forefront of marketing our beautiful city to everybody else so that they can come and enjoy it. And I think that's correct, but maybe not. And we'll find out a little bit more. So without further ado, Stephanie Brown, welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
I probably did not do you justice on your introduction, but I was going to kind of hope you could tell everybody a little bit about who you are, how you got to Asheville, and then what you do now.
Oh, sure. I came to Asheville from Alexandria, Virginia.
Okay.
And I was in the same role there in the head of the Convention and Visitors Bureau to attract outside money and customers to visit the city there. I've really worked in the most amazing places. Before coming to Asheville, I was the head of public affairs at Mount Vernon, the home of George Washington. I worked at Colonial Williamsburg.
Oh, wow.
So I've just been really, really fortunate. I kind of feel like I'm a professional, tourism person by day and a tourist by night. So,
How did you get into, this field? And do you like history? I'm just curious because it seems like some historical landmarks,
I love history and I love places.
Okay.
And the importance of a place, whether it's as a place to live and providing, jobs and revenue for the people who live there, or in a place like Colonial Williamsburg and Mount Vernon, those places connect people to their history and their government and their appreciation of that, that place today. So, I think it really all comes down to, place and what the place means for the people who live there.
Well, I think that's a perfect segue then. Asheville is a really unique place. I call it sticky. I came here, I was going to only be here for a year and a half. It's been almost 10 years. Be 10 years in August, so I'm just right around the corner. How long ago did you get here? And then what's your feel of what makes Asheville unique versus these other places that you've been?
Well, I've been here since 2012.
Okay.
It was quite a surprise that I got a call out of the blue one day inviting me to interview here, and my response was, I like the place that I'm at, and I'm not interested in going anywhere else. And I was convinced to come. I had, having worked for historic places, I knew Biltmore well and had worked with people and known people from Biltmore. But I was just enchanted by Asheville. And, to me, the thing that has shined through since that very first visit is, that spirit of self-expression, whether it's a busker on the street or an artist or architecture, or someone who is sharing through giving tours or outfitting and all of those things. I feel like Asheville's been a place where you can come and, and be yourself and express yourself through, whatever it is that's important to you.
Yeah, I don't know if I've ever heard somebody explain it that way, but it definitely, I agree. Yeah, you can everybody supports you being unapologetically yourself.
That's a great way to put it.
And being like, here's your runway. Go be you.
Yeah, and I think the role that tourism plays in that and has for for really generations is that we provide this source of customers for people to just plug into it, and whether it's a festival or a campground or a rooftop bar tour, we have this base of customers that helps to support independent businesses, and so I think Asheville's remained unique and special through all of this collection of people doing the thing that they're passionate about, rather than what's common in so many other places, which is kind of big box, themed things that have to support themselves. They have to be bigger and national because they don't have that source of free marketing services like we have here.
Yeah, we have a lot of different unique free marketing services that are just intrinsic to the location where we're at. It's great. So you're 2012. I was like right at the cusp of like downtown turning into what it is now. From my memory, I remember I started working at a restaurant downtown. I think it was 2011 at Curate, back in the long time ago. And that was like still no hotels. I don't think at all were built as far as the new ones, like Aloft or obviously any of the other ones. I think Aloft was the first one. I don't remember
Aloft
correctly.
Opened in 2013.
Yeah, so I remember I parked there when I went for my interview, and it's obviously changed a lot since then. How much of that has been like intentional, like strategic growth versus like, whoa, this is happening, let's ride the wave, if that question makes sense?
I would say that, any business that opens of any kind, that's a private business decision, right? It has to conform with the rules that whatever the government, says is allowable. But whether it's a hotel or it's a restaurant or it's an art gallery, we don't have any influence on, those decisions are made individually. But, I think that I really see it as a continuum over the last 35 years, more so than the last 7 years.
Okay.
Starting when Asheville's downtown was boarded up and there were no customers for any businesses. And, we talk a lot about, what made Asheville's Renaissance happen. And, rightfully so, we had these private sector pioneers like, Julian Price and Roger McGuire and, many, many others that invested, personal wealth and resources. We had public sector investments in parking garages. We don't talk that much about the creation of the lodging tax that started to create marketing so that, people would come and spend their money.
Well, so let's talk about that, because that's a good starting place as far as there is, I guess, some strategy, though, to attracting people. And once people start going, there's a tension, and people are like, hey, well, people have always monetized this. So if people are coming here, they need somewhere to stay, somewhere to eat, things to do. So I guess is it Explore Asheville or is it Buncombe County Tourism? I forgot what the development, which one is the proper name, or does it matter?
So the Buncombe County Tourism Development Authority is a public entity, just like the Airport Authority, created by state law to do a specific thing. The Airport Authority runs the airport. The Tourism Development Authority develops tourism. and so when the occupancy tax was created in 1983, the TDA was created to administer the tax. And their responsibility is to administer it according to what the law says it can be used for. Explore Asheville is a doing business as entity of the TDA. So the TDA are appointed by the city council and the county commission, and then we work for them under the doing business as name of Explore Asheville.
Okay. And so what's the 30-second or brief explanation of what's your all's purpose? So you wake up every day to do what?
Our purpose is to benefit the community by bringing people to visit and spend their money here. That supports local businesses, it provides jobs, and it generates tax revenue.
And the way that happens, this question is reaching out to people who aren't here and saying, hey, come visit Asheville because Asheville's awesome.
Well, you were right earlier when you said it's a complicated strategy. And so it boils down into two parts right now. 75% of lodging tax is dedicated to promotion. So that's marketing, advertising, sales programs, media relations. 25% is dedicated to a tourism product development fund. And so that portion of the occupancy tax has awarded $44 million to 39 community projects. And much of it's infrastructure. A lot of people will ask me, why can't that money be used for infrastructure? I'm like, it can, and it is. Wow. And we can talk later about our tourism management and investment plan, which seeks to, really focus on addressing the infrastructure needs of the community.
Could you give one or two examples of what that 25% has been used for, just to conceptualize it?
Sure. There's been 39 projects, but they boil down into some categories. So one category is, infrastructure. So $7 million to complete the riverfront redevelopment. So streets, sidewalks, curb and gutter, public art, greenways, bike lanes.
Right. Okay.
Also in that category was a $2 million grant for Woodfin for their greenway and Whitewater Wave.
Yeah.
There's a big bunch of cultural assets, including the Asheville Art Museum, the Asheville Community Theater, the Wortham Center. Most recently, we committed $800,000 to the YMI. To help them become more sustainable by improving their building and being able to rent it for events. The block, also on the block is the Leaf Global Arts Center.
Okay.
We're working with some community stakeholders for a grant to, for a museum at Stevens Lee and an African American Heritage Trail. We've also done a lot of sports facilities and stuff for kids. So we've done soccer fields, baseball fields, nature center, just lots and lots of different
anything
things.
on the spectrum, pretty much, as long as.
But the beautiful thing is, in a lot of communities, hotel taxes are dedicated to one big thing, and it might be a convention center, usually a convention center. None of us wake up Saturday morning and say, gosh, I'd like to go to the convention center today. True. But all of those things that I mentioned are also things that the community enjoys.
And gets a lot of use out of,
Yes, and it's accessible to people of any income level, and, and it appeals to lots of different interests.
No, that's super exciting, and it's not talked about enough probably. That 25%, because I knew a little bit about that, and the only reason is we just did an article on our website about the Woodfin Whitewater Wave, and I was like, it makes sense, but I wasn't aware that they received funding through that. Obviously, it generates tourism, or will when it's all up and running.
I think it's really, if you look at the whole set of projects, it's really been kind of transformational from Pack Square Park downtown to the extensive water access and greenways and culture and museums. And I think if you kind of looked at that whole list of projects, which is on our website, and you thought about what would Asheville be like without any of that, it would be a different place. Yeah.
So this is maybe a challenging question, but hopefully it's not too crazy. But so obviously this is real estate related podcast, and we're going to touch a little bit today's more kind of full focus on how all these things affect us. But do you guys get into any conversations with short-term rentals at all? Is that something that happens with Explore Asheville, and how do you manage that? Because I'm sure there's, in Asheville, no matter what you believe, there's going to be opposing viewpoints that are very strong. So
so we are intentionally lodging agnostic.
Okay.
Our job is to attract overnight visitors to the community, not to tell them where to stay.
Gotcha.
So we've had a relationship with the Homestay Network. Their leadership has come to our meetings. I've spoken at their meetings. We're hosting an open house. So, the relationship is that, the hotel tax is invested to bring visitors to the community, and it supports those local businesses. More than 700 of them are licensed now in the city of Asheville. And it is, vacation rentals have always been, a pretty important part of the landscape for tourism in Asheville going back, many, many, many years. So the TDA early on adopted a resolution that says that, any issues around zoning are the domain of elected officials, right? And that those elected officials should hear the members of the community and make policy that they think reflects that.
That makes sense. Bring it back. So you all are generating tourism. How do you guys handle the complaint that Asheville's been overrun by hotels and that it's impossible for locals to enjoy life here because everywhere you go there's tourism and some of the perceived negative effects or real negative effects? What's the public policy, or what's the stance on that? How do you combat that negativity, I guess?
To me, I think it's twofold. One is, less tourism is less. Right. It's less jobs. It's less money for local businesses. It's less tax revenue. And I think people often do not understand the extent to which the community depends on people visiting and spending money here.
Yeah.
And it's really across every different kind of job, from wait staff and front desk to management to insurance, real estate, graphic services. I mean, really, it touches every kind of job classification. However, Asheville, we market Asheville as a place that, people want to come because it's an awesome place to live.
Yes.
And so, we share concerns for, the sustainability of the experience of being here, whether it's about being here as a resident, or a visitor. And so we've embarked on a planning process to identify strategies to manage those consequences that, people don't want, the areas that are overcrowded. There are strategies that we hope we will be able to work together with the city and the county. There are marketing strategies to attract people to the areas of the county that want visitation the most, or to disperse people into different kinds of activities. So, we have been interested in partnering with the city to kind of overcome some of those infrastructure challenges for many years. And, the first example of achieving that was the River District. That was the priority that was brought to us. But now we've hired a team of consultants to work collaboratively with our municipal partners to identify ways that occupancy tax dollars can be invested in the maintenance and sustainability of the community.
Yeah, I think the river project is a pretty cool proof of concept, right? Like it came out really well. And it's like, hey, we can do this. Let's go out and replicate this type of project. I mean, personally, it's easy to get behind that.
Yeah, the difference is, the city had a plan for the riverfront redevelopment, the RAD tip, and they approached us through an application process and asked for funding. Initially, $2 million was awarded. That's what they had asked for. And then, when the construction bids came in higher than expected, and the solution to that was to build the southern section in 2 phases. That would have just had really difficult consequences for the people who do business down there. And so we were able to enhance that grant by $5 million proactively.
Very cool.
Called the city and offered it to them. And so because of that, they were able to do the construction, all at one time. So we're really happy to help with that. The difference.
Well, thank you.
Yes, thank you. The difference with downtown is that, right now there is not a comprehensive plan. And there are also a lot of different stakeholders who have, different priorities and opinions and potential solutions. And so we have embarked on the Tourism Management and Investment Plan, TMIP for short. And TMIP, it has 4 phases, includes, public input and a community sentiment survey, but also a lot of collaboration so that we can sit down at the table with the city and county to kind of understand how to align the infrastructure demands and the costs that those municipal governments are facing with the goals that are dictated by the state law that oversees, this source of funding, so that, we can kind of address those priorities. And, the focus is on the priorities that are good for residents and that are needed by the local community, because we know that is what will make tourism sustainable.
You need to have happy hosts to be able to have happy guests, right? So, and a lot of I think sometimes there's a lot of small businesses who are like, hey, I'm not part of the tourism industry directly. I am sure that there's a benefit to them. I think I read on y'all's website is 1.9 or 1.8 billion that you guys generated in external money flowing into the county.
$2 billion are spent by visitors every year.
Even if they're only spent in one industry, that industry hires people, which, right? I mean, is that the thought process? Or it seems like that's a lot of, where else would that money come from? good, right?
Well, kind of the bigger, broader community benefit,
Yeah.
is in a few different buckets.
Mm-hmm.
One bucket is that, that those visitors spend money, and that generates $200 million of
Mm-hmm.
state and local taxes that provides core services and social investments.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the city of Asheville has been, articulated, and it's true that not a lot of that money flows into the city of Asheville coffers.
Right.
But it's going to the county, and it's going to the state, and it's supporting about $26 million for the city that's providing services that we all use. The second way that people benefit is by having, really a lifestyle with so many rich choices, whether it's dining or entertainment or recreation, theater. I mean, this community of not that many people, fairly small city and county, really have a lot more than you would find at a similarly sized city, and that not only provides things to enjoy, but it provides jobs for people in so many different kinds of things. So, maybe you have friends who are artists or musicians or tour guides. Those folks are in this community and able to make a living because people who are visiting are bringing their dollars.
Yeah, and they're looking for that type. So if you're a local business and then you're listening to us talk right now and they're like, man, I need to get in front of more eyes. Do you guys provide support for local businesses to highlight them comparable to what the chamber does or anything like that?
Oh, I'm so glad you asked that question. The lodging tax is invested in advertising and media relations that directs people to exploreasheville.com.
Right.
If you are a visitor-related business in Buncombe County, you're providing a visitor experience, you can be listed on Explore Asheville for free.
Okay.
And so that also, the calendar of events is very popular. We have CVB 101 to help partner businesses understand all the things that we do.
Okay.
Our media relations team places 800 major stories a year, significant stories a year. Those stories are not about the BCTDA. They're about all the cool businesses and the people who are providing experiences. Right.
You can get featured in these stories then.
Well, we can learn about you and represent those things. Our sales department books weddings and group tours and meetings and conventions. So we also have partner professional development. For instance, last year we did free training on enhancing your presence on the Google Knowledge Panel.
Okay.
And Explore Asheville is a Google trusted source. And so if any local businesses need to have their pictures updated or their location's not quite right or the information isn't right, we can do that for you.
Wow.
And we have coming up on, I think it's August 6th, our ad agency, who was ranked Adweek's Breakthrough Agency of the Year, is doing a full day-long seminar that's open to any nonprofit or local business in Asheville to learn, the latest technique.
And where would you find out more information about that?
All of these things are on our website, which is AshevilleCVB.com.
Okay.
And, that also includes all of them, anything that's distributed to the board, anything that's presented at a partner meeting. There's lots of research there. Any events that we're doing are noticed on that website. So.
Man, that is super exciting.
So, yeah, it's a great resource, whether you're interested in, just from a public accountability perspective of, how this money is spent. Marketing plans are there, performance indicators are there, or whether you are a local business that benefits from tourism and would like to make sure that we're connecting you to visitors.
Do you know of any specific success stories of people who've been like, I wasn't working with Explore Asheville and I did, and holy cow, my business blew up?
Gosh, there are so many of those. I'll give you a couple of examples. Someone approached me I'd never met before at one of our annual meetings, and they said, we had some property and, we didn't know if we could make any money, and they put some yurts on the property and did no other marketing except to put it on our website, and they're making their living that way.
Wow.
I've talked to farmers who have said, I thought I was going to have to sell my farm for development, but because I was able to connect to weddings and farm tours, and because I sell my produce and meat to restaurants, I'm able to keep my family farm alive.
That is so cool.
There's a woman right now who's doing rooftop bar tours. She was a postal carrier for 38 years, and then had this awesome idea to transport people to the rooftop bars in town and show them historical pictures. Yes. We just interviewed somebody for one of our videos who said, I'm a chemical engineer, and tourism saved me from having to be a chemical engineer. I can pursue my passion, which is leading tours into the forest and helping people connect with nature. So, I think a lot of local businesses who are doing these really cool tours and all kinds of different experiences are getting a lot of their business from the Explore Asheville website. And if not, our advertising is generating people coming to town
in being curious, right?
First place, exactly. And so our model is different than a lot of places. Our model is to provide customers that help this why. So anybody who wants to connect to that can. It's not membership based.
Very cool. There's a lot of good going on, and I'm just wondering if at your other stops before you got to Asheville, was there as much of critique about the tourism industry as there seems to be here?
This is something that a lot of communities are experiencing because, there's just a lot of dynamics nationally that are creating pressures on municipal budgets, cost of living. All successful places in America are dealing with housing affordability, wages, crowding because people are moving from rural areas, into urban areas. And that's not to say that, tourism should be left off the hook entirely, but I think the problems that we face are more complicated than tourism. And I think that having less tourism doesn't solve those problems. It just means that there's fewer jobs and less money and less tax revenue. So, the community needs to work together as a whole to figure out these, these challenging answers that, every successful community in America is facing.
Do you think tourism gets picked on because it's easy?
I think it is easy. I kind of understand why it's easy. There aren't that many entities, in Western North Carolina. I think people see the budget that we're directing, and it's hard to make that connection for a lot of people that the money that we spend directly translates into more money generated in tax revenue and spending at local businesses and wages. The other kind of the stat that gets thrown around a lot, I shouldn't say thrown around a lot because it's a serious thing, is that the average household income in Western North Carolina is less. And the natural conclusion that people draw is that that's because we're a tourist town. And actually, when you look at the data, hotels and healthcare are the only two industries that pay more than average.
Really?
Every job category, every other job category pays less.
Huh.
Hospitality is included too, as paying more than normal.
Do you know where, what's the data source for that?
Oh, the North Carolina Department of Commerce.
Okay.
The wage surveys.
If you're curious to get into the wages, North Carolina Department of Commerce.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. So I became aware of this from my exciting life at night was watching this video of the Mountain Area Workforce Development Committee, and they're and I'm watching this grainy iPhone video, and they were walking through this data, and Asheville is a community of small businesses, and wages, whether it's nonprofit, legal, professional services, banking, real estate, those jobs are all paying less than they do in other places in North Carolina. And so, even if we had the same distribution of jobs, meaning we had the same amount of tourism jobs, the same amount of tech jobs, that our household income would still be lower. So so that's
not a tourism thing.
It's not a tourism thing. Well, actually, tourism is paying more than it pays in other places.
Yeah. Well,
and I would also say that that having those jobs are not taking away any other kind of job. If they weren't there,
they just
wouldn't be there, right? And so, when you were working in the restaurant industry, that was what you were choosing to do. It wasn't causing you to not do something different. And if that job wasn't there, you wouldn't have had
before
a
that,
different
I was
opportunity.
Before that, I was working landscaping, and I preferred the restaurant very much so.
Mm-hmm.
As favorite customers were always people who came out of town.
Yeah.
Because they were here on vacation. They spent more than people who weren't on vacation typically.
And these hospitality jobs, especially hotels have more. They're an opportunity for folks without a lot of experience to get a foot in the door and then move up. They offer their own training, their own management programs, and they're looking for people who want that opportunity to exceed.
I mean, once you're working, you never know who you're going to meet. Like I did that, and then I actually ended up working as a legal assistant because of an attorney that came in and was at a table that I was serving, and it was just total coincidence. You never can't ever plan for that. But
I was actually waiting tables after graduate school when someone from Ohio Tourism was a customer and invited me to apply for the job, and that's how I got started.
See, mine was they came in on a Friday. They're like, call me Monday morning. I called Monday morning. Was in there Tuesday. Started 2 weeks later. Essentially, I was like. And
stoked. I want to make sure I don't minimize the challenge of folks who we always want more opportunities. We need to address the supply of housing that's causing our housing costs to be very high. So I don't want to minimize that there's work to do. And there are people who need to be connected to opportunities and to have a more sustainable access to quality of life in our community. However, that having less jobs available through tourism doesn't accomplish that.
So I'm going to circle back around to that in a moment, but I do want to tackle something that I think any time I've been at any event where somebody from Explore Asheville or Buncombe County Tourism Development Association is present, the question's well, why don't you guys use the money for roads or infrastructure and whatnot? I think there's it's a law, it's a mandate or something like that where you guys aren't allowed to. Is that, or what's the background on that and what's the answer?
The complicated answer is that we do.
Okay.
But that the law does provide for those kinds of investments, and we have made those kinds of investments, but we have to follow the law. The Tourism Development Authority board members and staff, we have to spend the money, which is, in those two pots. 75% by state law is for state and local and national promotion, which is marketing and advertising and media relations, and 25% is for the grant program. But the grant program is available. So the rule on the grants is that it has to generate overnight stays. So, fix that road. No, that's not going to qualify.
But the Greenway.
Yes.
Or the Woodfin Whitewater.
Sure. But I think we can also, we can make places that include sidewalks and crosswalks and things that people think of as infrastructure. Infrastructure can also mean a greenway, can also mean river access. I think what the community wants is improvements to downtown that spread visitor constraints around, make sure that we have safe sidewalks, that we're developing areas to make our downtown bigger, and we can do that. We just need to do it within the framework of making a place that conforms to the law.
Yeah. Okay. So a lot of that then is going to be through partnership with
the city and the
county. Then
and other municipal partners. Yeah.
So then the other thing, I'm kind of going back to your previous conversation as far as all the work that you all are doing. I was just wondering, is there a particular project or opportunity that you guys are focused on that you're particularly excited about?
Oh gosh, that's a good. Just the whole of being able to address these needs. The TMIP is not all about downtown. We are a county level organization, and I think that continuing to build assets throughout the whole county is important. However, most visitor spending is generated within the city of Asheville, and I think it's really important that we figure out how to address these impacts of visitors to return our downtown
Yeah.
to be a place where the people who live here want to be.
Okay.
You know, we get that. I think it's solvable. I think if we can make downtown bigger, we can attract visitors into a bigger footprint. We can help with, sidewalks and maintenance and some of those things within the definition of the source of funding.
Yeah. So, oh man, you guys have so much going on. See, I didn't even realize this.
And so
Yeah.
part of this planning process that I didn't mention is, we've been doing an application-based process. So every year, the city and other applicants, nonprofits, they submit an application and it gets evaluated and then it is awarded or it is not.
Right.
The other change is that we're looking at 10 years worth of funding. So we're trying to look strategically over so that way we can accomplish very big ticket items, infrastructure, renovations to Thomas Wolfe, sports facilities in other parts of the county. Rather than say, okay, how much money do we have this year? We can say, okay, when is the money going to be allocated to these different projects over 10 years? Maybe if the list is awesome, it'll be 15 years. So, it's $6.5 million a year currently. I'm pretty excited about what we can accomplish with 10 or 15 years worth of revenue.
Absolutely. When you guys are marketing Asheville, what do you market Asheville as? Is it a mountain town? Is it a foodie town? Is it what is it?
It's the sum of all those parts.
Okay.
I mean, really, it's, Asheville's a complicated thing to communicate because, once you're here, you get it and you feel it.
Yeah.
But when
very
you're
intrinsic.
when you're in DC or Cincinnati or Nashville or Florida and you haven't been here before, so we have so many different creative assets that help to show the combination of things. Because the thing that's unique about Asheville is, this quality of experience within the natural beauty and the recreation that's offered. So we are working on new spots right now. The new tagline is "Let your spirit run free," which we think really kind of captures that way of feeling when you're here. But it's really about showcasing all of these different aspects because it's not just what's the main motivator for coming, but we need to attract people who want to experience the real Asheville. And support the local businesses that are providing those visitor experiences. So we want to connect potential visitors who can kind of come and appreciate the values that we have as a community and be part of it and not be in conflict with it.
What's been your favorite part about living in Asheville that you might not have expected when you moved here?
It's the sum of the parts, really, because, I came here from D.C.
Right.
And, theoretically, there's a lot to do there. But it's hard to do it. And so, I was whitewater rafting last week. I went to Laurel River Trail yesterday. And, just to have my feet in the water and sit on a rock and, be part of nature has really kind of been a gift.
Yeah.
So, of course, I love the food and the entertainment and the many things to do. But just connecting with nature 10 minutes, 20 minutes from home is pretty special.
Yeah, I grew up in a big city, and I've found that it'd be hard for me to give that up. You get spoiled a little bit. So as we're wrapping up, I want to go back to something you said at the very beginning. I'm curious, what was the convincing thing to get you back to take that interview or to explore this as an option? Because you mentioned you kind of shut it down. You said, no way, I'm good, I'm happy. Yeah. But you're here.
I know. Well, I was convinced to come for the first visit and, and I spent an extra day, kind of becoming, but it was, it was probably in March or, it wasn't the prettiest time of year. And I remember driving through downtown with the windows down and hearing the music and, going into places. And I just really kind of connected with the feeling of being here. And it was complicated. I was recently remarried, and we had 2 houses in D.C. and a 7-year-old daughter to move. But, we came back a week later with my family, and, it just immediately felt like the place we needed to be.
Very cool. Well, welcome.
Thank you.
7 years
Definitely
late, but
been home now, right?
Yeah, no doubt. Anything that as we're wrapping up, anything that I didn't ask you that maybe I should have, anything that you want to let everybody be aware of, or closing thoughts?
I mean, we touched on it briefly,
Yeah.
but like any public entity,
Mm-hmm.
the Tourism Development Authority was created for a public purpose and to provide benefit for the community. The benefit that we provide is not to visitors.
Mm-hmm.
The benefit we provide is to the people who live here.
Yeah.
By providing jobs with lots of opportunity and supporting local businesses, creating amenities and infrastructure
Right.
that make it an enjoyable place to live. And so, we are rolling up our sleeves and working with our municipal partners, to make sure that those community benefits are at the forefront.
Awesome. Well, thank you all for the work that you guys do.
Thank you.
And thanks so much for coming on the show. Hope you guys have a rest of good week. Thanks for coming again, Stephanie.
Thank
and
you.
Everybody, thanks for tuning in. If you have any questions about what we talked about, we will do our best to summarize it, as always, on our website, have some information available, but also check out exploreasheville.com and
/TMIP, TMIP.
TMIP online, and you guys can get more information and get plugged in. And again, if you're a local business and you're not taking advantage of the Explore Asheville support that you guys have there, I highly encourage you to do so. All right, you guys, have a great week. Talk to you all next Tuesday. Take care.